Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel, and today I'm posing the question, how much XRP should you own? The way it's frequently phrased is, by other content creators, is how much XRP should you own to become a millionaire? Right? It's a fun topic, so let's talk about it. I've got some thoughts on this I'd like to share with you. Before we get going here, if you would please delicately tap the like button, I would definitely appreciate it, but don't smash it. I don't want you to break the thing. And if you would please consider subscribing, definitely appreciate it. You don't have to do it. I'm just asking that you consider it. And if you don't hate every word coming out of my mouth, then hit the subscribe button. It'll be a good time. We can talk more frequently then, right? You can come check it out. Now, look, when I'm deciding what content I want to put out there, because, look, I made this channel because it's a passion, a hobby of mine. It's a lot of fun. And in making content, I frequently think, what types of videos am I most likely to click on? Because I'm just like you. Okay, fine, I'm putting videos out here. Most of you aren't putting XRP or crypto videos out there. But I'm looking for content just like you are. And I watch a ton of different YouTube content creators within the XRP community. And I find that, to be perfectly honest, yes, I like the news ones, but I really enjoy just kind of clicking on the ones that have to do a little bit about price, or what's the potential, how much could XRP be worth, how much would you have to hold for it to be worth X, Y, Z amount, whatever it is. And so I think it's a fun topic, and I've never discussed it on my channel. I've almost had this channel for 6 months now, so I thought I'd kind of bring it up here. And the way that I'm going to put a thought into your head here, I'm going to try and drop this particular thought. It's different than what I've seen other YouTubers comment in terms of what it takes. In particular, like if you want to say to get to $1 million US, if that's the holy grail, if that's what you want to get to. I just got a completely different way of thinking about it. And so I want you to take a look at this first. Look, and also just to be clear, I have no financial background. This is not financial advice. I have to heavily mention this at the very beginning of the video because we are talking about price stuff. This is not designed to get you jazzed up and to go buy or sell anything. I am not doing that. That would be very stupid of you to do that. Please talk to your financial advisor before buying or selling anything. I want nothing to do with that. I'm just an enthusiast in the community. I like sharing my thoughts on this, and if something's kind of thought-provoking for you, well, cool, because that's kind of what I'm trying to do here. And I appreciate your thoughts as well, because I don't know everything. But take a look at this. This is this page here. It's the Xrp Rich List created by Wietse Wind, who is the creator of the XRP tip bot. And you can see here, by default, it shows this page. Let me click back over here. It shows data by the number of accounts. And I like to click on this because it's more fun to look at, in my opinion. It's data by percentage of accounts. And so you can see how much XRP you have to hold to be in a certain percentile. And I'm going to throw some numbers, hypothetical numbers out for you. And for the sake of ease, I understand everybody listening, if you're holding XRP, you hold different quantities, duh. And so I'm going to play with a number that would put you in the 5th percentile, and I'm going to round up. So we're just going to pretend, for the sake of the video, that you hold 10,000 XRP. I'm not going to say how much I hold or seek to hold. That's personal information that I don't ever intend to divulge. And so I'm just using fantasy numbers here. I'm not going to tell you if I have more or less than this. And you really shouldn't either. Please don't share that. It makes you a target for people with malevolent intent. That's not good. So keep it to yourself. Please comment below, but keep the personal data to yourself, please. I want you guys all safe out there. But let's pretend we're in the 5th percentile and we've got 10,000 XRP because it makes it super easy to play with numbers here. So just for the sake of this video, let's pretend that you have 10,000 XRP, and let's pretend that the price of one XRP goes all the way up to $10. If you hold 10,000 XRP and the price of XRP goes to $10, then your holdings are worth 100,000 US. Now let's plug that into something. Check this out. What you're looking at on my screen here is called a compound interest calculator. Now, some of you could be rolling your eyes if you're aware of what a compound interest calculator is. Okay, maybe you've already got your retirement plan in place and you've known about this for a long time. I want to touch on this real quickly here because, honestly, I think a ton of people don't know about this. You know, I'm a 36-year-old man. And in all my education, going through elementary school, junior high, high school, and then my highest education, I got a college degree, I got a marketing degree. And in all of that, I was never taught this. If I was taught this in college, then somehow I didn't retain it, but I'm pretty freaking sure it was never even brought up out of any of the courses that I ever took. And this should be taught from, in my mind, I think that people should be taught about compound interest from a very young age and instill the importance of this concept in them, because the time value of money is absolutely tremendous. And the most realistic way, if you want to amass a true fortune, it's to invest long term. And it's because of the magic of what compound interest is. And so compound interest, I'm sure some of you know this, but I guarantee that there's somebody out there listening that doesn't. And I got to tell you, if I say, and I am going to say this, that the concept of compound interest is life-changing, if anything, I'm underselling it. That's how important this is. It's a life-changing event once you understand this, if you choose to understand it and then change the way that you're treating money if you're not already doing this, of course. But the concept is earning money, investing it, and then taking the interest that you earn from that investment and continue to invest it. And what you'll see if you do that is that, generally speaking, in a market that's on an upward trend over a long period of time, you will accumulate wealth at an exponentially increasing rate. You will increase wealth at an exponentially increasing rate. And that is the key. That is the magic of compound interest. And I'm going to illustrate, I'm going to play a few hypothetical scenarios here for you to watch to see exactly what this could hypothetically do, first with XRP as a current principal amount that you could invest as initial investment, assuming that windfall comes to you, because that's what we're all hoping for, right? That crypto goes boon and moon, Lambo, all that garbage, right? And so again, let's start with just a premise that you're holding 10,000 XRP, and let's say that the value of XRP, one XRP goes to $10, meaning that your XRP total, your stash, hypothetically, is worth $100,000. Now, let's say you took that $100,000, which I plugged in here on the screen, and let's say that's your only investment, period, okay? And you let that investment grow for 30 years at 8% interest. Let's calculate that, and it comes out to over $1 million. You see it on the screen? $1,265.69. So that means if you want to be an XRP millionaire, it's just another way of looking at it. You could have XRP go to $10, and then if you conservatively invest at 8% for 30 years, you've got your $1 million, right? Why did I pick 8? Well, take a look, and so a little over half my viewers, YouTube shares demographics, so I know this. A little over half my viewers are in the United States, and so that's what I'm familiar with. That's what I know. So I'm going to go with the investments I'm familiar with for my country. If you're in a different country, there are different investment mechanisms. Heck, maybe you can invest in the U.S. stock market. I don't know if it's easy. I'm sure you could. But I just want to share this data with you, and you can apply it however you want to apply it to think through it. So the S&P 500, I'm sure you've all heard of that. It is it's basically a market capitalization index that includes the 500 largest U.S. companies in terms of market capitalization. Again, and it's just public companies. So again, it's a market index that shows the total value of top 500 public U.S. companies, and I think it's valued at somewhere like 27 trillion, something crazy huge like that. And the S&P 500 has been around since, I believe, 1926. And now back then, though, it wasn't called the S&P 500. Back then, it was the S&P, but it only included like 90 or so companies in the actual index. It wasn't until late 50s, I think 1957, that the S&P 500 was called the S&P 500 and included 500 companies. And so I want to take the data from 1957 because that was easy. That's easy for anyone to pull up through the end of 2018. And the average rate of return, if you invested from 1957, when the S&P 500 was really the S&P 500, through the end of 2018, you got an average return of 8%. Now, I understand this isn't as exciting as the crypto world, but if you happen to choose to treat your investment in crypto like me, which means that you've got your own retirement, which is separate from this, and this is what you're really retiring on, or counting on to retire one day. But then you do this, and then if it's, you invest in crypto and you think, okay, if it blows up, then that's just icing on the cake. If that's how you do it, then this could be appealing to you because you can actually make pretty big returns, like $100,000. That's nothing to sneeze at, right? You can take that and turn it into $1 million over time. That's something you wouldn't have otherwise had. That's why I said it's icing on the cake here. And so 8% is absolutely realistic. It's not that exciting, but that's what it's done. And understand there are years that are up, there are years that are down. And also, if you do include inflation, I think that brings the number down to more like 7%. So if you're going to play with this calculator here, plug in whatever you want. If you feel like you want to include an adjustment for inflation, then maybe turn that 8% into a 7%. That's perfectly fine. But you can plug in whatever numbers you want. I've got this website, and I'm going to link this below, of course. This had a chart. This is the website I want to pull up, right? Isn't it? Maybe it was this one. I'm sorry. It's got to be. Oh yeah, here we go. This is what I wanted to show you. So if you look here, here's the returns from the S&P 500 historical annual data. And this is pretty cool. So you can look for 2019. I guess this is probably just year to date because the year's not over. 12.74%. It looks like last year it was down 6.24%, even though I know it started out strong in January and some of the early months, but it tanked towards the end of the year, pulling from memory here. But look down here. Like, here's the financial collapse of 2008. Bam! That's not fun. If you were invested in the S&P 500, you lost 38.49%. And you can go down here, scrolling down further, look at this. This must be the dot-com bust. You can see in 2000, negative 10%, 2001, negative 13%, and 2002, negative 23%. So that's bad. And look at the other terrible ones down here. If you go down to like the 20s, you can see the Great Depression, I think. Yeah, look at this. Oh, this is awful. 1929, negative 11.91%. 1930, negative 28.48%. 1931, negative 47.07%. That's insane. And then 1932, negative 15% again. But look what happened after that. 1933, positive 46.59%. And so if you're investing in the S&P 500, yes, it goes up, yes, it goes down. People panic sell in this market just like they do in crypto because humans are humans, and I've learned that. But understand, here's the way I look at it. This is my personal opinion with a non-financial point of view because that's not my background. Just a regular Joe Schmo here, right? The way that I look at it is, if you believe, if you're in America, and again, I understand lots of people in different countries, but I got to speak what I know. I hope that's okay. But, unless you think, if you're investing in the S&P 500, unless you're convinced that like America's economy is going to collapse and never recover, it makes sense to invest in the stock market, especially these companies. And some of these companies in the S&P 500, yeah, they're going to fail, but the belief is that most are going to succeed over time. And I would say, because this is the economic backbone of America, largely a big chunk of it anyway, right? 27 trillion in market cap combined. If you don't believe that by and large these companies are going away, then it's probably reasonably safe to invest in this. And I don't think I'm saying anything outlandish by stating something like that. It just seems obvious. It's just a conservative approach. There's nothing, like I said, nothing exciting or sexy about it, but it freaking works. It freaking works. Put some money into this, right? That's my opinion. I'm not telling you, again, make your own decisions. This is just firmly how I feel about it, and this is how I'm treating it. And so things get even better, though, because you should be investing money outside of just crypto, in my humble opinion here. So let's play with some numbers here, just for the fun of it, right? Let's say that, here's a number I'm going to plug in. So let's say you did get that $100,000. Let's say you had 10,000 XRP. XRP becomes worth $10 each, and now you have $100,000 to invest. Let's pretend on top of that you're super responsible, and let's say you save an additional, on top of that, $500 per month. $500 per month. Now, mind you, as I state this, I know, and this is ridiculous, and not making fun of you if you're part of this, I'm really not. Did you know that the average monthly car payment in America it's right at $500, $6,000 a year, $500 a month. And you don't need that. You can drive a 10-year-old car and it'll get you around just fine if you want to. Now, if you want, I'm not telling you how to spend your money, and I'm not judging you if you're doing that. Maybe you have an even bigger payment, and it's also relative. It depends on how much money you're making too. But I'm saying the average middle-class citizen is doing that, and that's a huge chunk of their change. And I don't think they understand how much money they're forfeiting by doing that. So let's say you put in $500 a month on top of this $100,000 windfall you just got because you invested hypothetically in XRP and it worked out. That'd be $6,000 a year that you'd be putting in. So let's say you had your $100,000 base here that you invested because, yay, XRP worked out, and you got just $100,000, which is, again, only a tenth of a million. But hey, let's say you didn't want to risk it any further. Like, oh my God, this is a lot of money, and I'm actually going to just save it. And maybe you'd make more if you hadn't pulled it out. I'm just giving you something to think about. I totally get that. But it's nobody. I haven't seen any other YouTubers come at it from this approach, and that's why I'm sharing this. So hopefully you do find this thought-provoking, even if you don't want to go this route. Make your own decision. That's perfectly fine. I'm just sharing some content with you that I find fascinating, and I hope you do too. So let's say, again, $100,000 base. That's what you invested, and then $6,000 per year is what you put in for 30 years at 8% interest. Now, again, without putting in that $500 a month and just putting in that $100,000, you would have, after 30 years, a little over $1 million. But let's say that you do put in $500 a month for 30 years, and so instead of having a car note, you just buy a cheaper car and have a cheaper car, which will get you around just fine, and you put all that money, $6,000 a year, in as an investment. Now, let's calculate that. You would have, instead, $1,740,000-ish. $1,740,000. So understand that over a span of 30 years, if you're spending $500 a month and you think that's all your car note's costing you, you're wrong. It just cost you in 30 years $740,000 because you want to have a new car and you want to have a car note. Just be aware of what you're doing over a span of 30 years. If you always have a car note of $30,000, that's $740,000 because your money wasn't earning interest. Instead, you're investing it in a depreciating asset, so you're going the wrong way. Now, again, I'm not judging you if you do that. It's perfectly fine if you want to do it. Just make sure you're aware of it. And again, if you make enough money, we're like, well, yeah, I know I'm doing that, but live life a little. That's totally fine. This is not a judgment call. I just want to make sure you're aware of this in case you weren't thinking about it. And, I looked at my demographics here, because I was curious. I was like, I'm going to be talking about this. I'm sure a lot of people, especially the older are, the more likely they are to know about compound interest. About a third of the people that are viewing my channel are aged 35 to 44, but a huge chunk are 25 to 34, and I think that those people are probably less likely to be aware of this, so I'm hoping that this knowledge will help you and get you looking down that path in case you don't. But yeah, I think it's like 26% of people watching my channel, like 25 to 34, which I find just kind of interesting, and I hope you don't mind me sharing a little inside baseball with you there. But it's kind of neat that YouTube collects that data. If you make it public, then it just shares it, and it doesn't tell me who is aged what, but just kind of get the aggregate on it. But let's say, because generally over time people tend to make more money. So let's say things typically go well, or maybe you get married and you got a spouse and you're both working, but you're both putting away $500 a month. So let's double this. So let's say instead of putting $500 a month away, you put away $1,000 a month, which would be $12,000 a year. And let's assume also that you've got your current principal of the starting principal of $100,000, because let's say hypothetically you earn that from XRP. So what's that come out to after 30 years at 8% if you're investing $1,000 a month? It goes from $1.7 million in my previous calculation to $2.5 million, almost, just shy of that. $2.5 million after 30 years. And you're getting a huge leg up just by having this initial $100,000 right here. And so, and we can play with other numbers. So let's say let's say you want to dream bigger. Let's say that you really want to dream bigger, and you think that XRP is going to be worth $25 one day, and you have 10,000 XRP, and let's say you sold all that XRP at one time. That would be current principal of $250,000. If I typed that correctly, yes, I did. And let's say that was it. Let's say you're not investing any other dollars, period, but you have 30 years for that $250,000 to grow at 8%. What would that come out to? This is a new hypothetical situation I'm about to press calculate, and it would be worth, look at that, a little over $2.5 million. So if you think it's realistic to get there, and it may be, I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. I'll tell you what, there's a lot of speculation that pushed it up to $3.80 with almost no utility. If that can freaking happen with almost no humans investing, man, all bets are off, man. I think absolutely, this is my humble opinion, I think XRP absolutely can be valued in the trillion. So I think it's possible. If you don't, that's cool. I do think it's possible. We'll see. There are a lot of people that didn't think that XRP could get over $1. Well, it flew by that when it happened, didn't it? I know there's major retracement, but I'm just saying. So let's say this. So let's get more fun with it. So let's say you pull that out and you're like, okay, yeah, XRP might be going higher. What if it went to $50 or whatever? I could be missing out if I pull that out. But what if you're like, okay, let's just do what's responsible because this is life-changing money. And it is. This is life-changing money. Whether it's $100,000 or even if it's less than that, this is life-changing money for most people, especially if you properly treat that money. Don't go spend it, invest it over time. The time value of money is tremendous. So let's, for fun, though, say you got that $250,000. And then let's say that you do put in $500 per month because you no longer got that car note that maybe you shouldn't have. Maybe you should have it. Again, I'm not judging you. But maybe you shouldn't, and you're like, okay, let's just get an older car, and even though I got my $250,000, and you're just going to live super frugal. If you wanted to do that, it's just a hypothetical. And let's say you have that gets to compound for 30 years at 8%. So now you've got your $250,000 plus you're putting in $500 a month for 30 years. It goes from $2.5 million to being worth, did I do that right? That can't be right. 76,200. I must have punched that in wrong. Years to grow 30. Oh yeah, it's because I'm sorry, I did do that wrong. Yeah, it's supposed to put in 6,000. I put in it's $500 a month, and that's what I typed into the annual edition. The annual edition is 6,000. let me try that again. So it was a little over 2.5 million. Sorry about that. I feel like an idiot. Yay, YouTube watchers, my bad. All right, so $250,000 plus the annual addition of $6,000. Calculate that, and you'd have $3.25 million roughly. That's insane. I'm telling you, compound interest is freaking legit. It's not as exciting as crypto, but if you want to be more sure, and at least in my opinion, that you're going to have more than just a little nest egg by the time you retire, especially if you're in your 20s or if you're in your 30s. Again, I'm 36, or even if you're in your early to mid 40s, you can still look 30 years out, and my gosh, absolutely you can have this, and it can really, really, really compound in a very meaningful way. Now let's say that you got that $250,000 though, and instead of saving $500 a month, you save $1,000 a month, which would be $12,000 a year. I'm plugging this in correctly this time. Instead of having $3.25 million roughly, you would then have, after 30 years, $4 million. I'm rounding up, but you're right at $4 million. And you know, the neat thing is, if you're willing to live frugally, you'll keep earning more money over time. Most people do. You know, most people don't earn what they're earning now for the rest of their life. Most people, they tend to move up in income brackets over time. And so if you want to put in more than that, you can play with it. Imagine you could save $1,500 a month, which would be $18,000 a year, and maybe you got to grow into it, and that's a ways away, but what if you did? Well, if you invested that $250,000 from XRP and you put in $1,500 a month after 30 years at 8%, that would be $4,717,000, you know? Now consider this. Let's say you have zero from crypto, but let's say you did save, let's just say, we'll do the $12,000 a year, so that's $1,000 a month, just for fun. And let's say you just did that for 30 years, starting with nothing. Well, still, you're going to have something. Check this out. 1.45 million, or 1,468,000. That's about what it is. So almost a 1.5 million. And that's why I'm telling you, I don't care if you're going to be middle class forever. You can be a millionaire. You have to choose to be now if you want to be. You absolutely can be. And that's your call. You do what you want with it. Talk to your financial planner. I am not that person. I'm just sharing with you some Joe Schmo type comments. I'm not going to pretend to be something I'm not, but I think this is fun to dream about, fun to think about. And I'm just telling you, if you want to do this and you think it makes financial sense after consulting a financial advisor, if you do have a windfall in earnings from XRP in the coming years, you can take that and parlay it into something that'll just blow your mind in whatever period of time. And again, like I said, the rate of return, it does increase exponentially over time, so it's going to be slower at first. You know, you could look at, so let's say, even though, okay, 30 years of investing $1,000 a month, yeah, that's 1.5, but after 5 years, it's not going to be nearly as much. So let's say you did $1,000 a month for 5 years. It hasn't really snowballed that much yet, but you would have, look at that, $76,000. And that doesn't, I mean, it's still a lot of money, but it's, you know, it's nowhere near 1.5, and you're like, whoa. But that's why I want to visually show this if you haven't played with one of these calculators before, and I'll link this below. I've used this moneychimp.com one quite a bit. They all work about the same, and this one seems to be working fine. So, and it pulls, every time I search for compound interest calculator, it's at the top, so I tend to use it. But let's say you invest $1,000 a month for 10 years. Look at this. Okay, let's calculate that out. $187,000. Because now the interest that you earned, that's earning more interest. And let's say you did that for 15 years. It'll go from $187,000 to $351,000. Now let's check after 20 years, and you can see how it speeds up when you give it another. When I jump by 5 years, because your interest is now earning interest, but you have to keep it there. So you're not going to make a ton of money at first, but if you want to have a ton of money eventually, it's a pretty sure way to do it. It's about as sure as it gets in my mind, just my opinion. So let's say you invest $1,000 a month for 20 years, $593,000. Now let's say you save it for 25 years, $947,000. Now watch this jump up, because I already showed you this. When it goes from 25 to 30 years, it goes from $947,000 accumulated to right at 1.5 million. Do you see how it snowballs? And then if you go, let's say you go 35 years out, if you got another 5 years, it goes from 1.5 million roughly to $2,233,000. That is the magic of compound interest, and if you're not aware of it, now you are. And if you were aware of it, thank you for listening, regardless, and hopefully it got you. It's fun to think about the numbers, so hopefully you at least enjoyed that, even if you're aware of compound interest. But I'm telling you, like, I wasn't taught this, like I said, my entire education. And so when I did learn it, I was like, huh, that is freaking amazing. It is magic. And so you don't need a get-rich-quick scheme. You don't need crypto to make you a fortune to be a multimillionaire. You don't need it. It's great if that happens, more power to you, but I just want you to get you thinking in a different way. This is a different video than I typically make. I typically cover the way XRP works and some of the news data on it, but I thought this would be a fun thing to share, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. I believe that's all I wanted to share with you today, so I guess I can kind of cut it off there. What are your thoughts on it? How do you guys plan to treat your investment? At what point do you feel it would make sense to sell? I don't want you to share your, how much you hold. Please don't do that below. But at what dollar figure for you do you think it would be like, okay, maybe it's time to divest myself of some of the investment or all of it? I'm just kind of curious. And for me, man, I wish I could say I wrote down a plan. Well, technically I did, but then I thought, I don't know if I'm going to stick to this. So it's kind of up in the air for me, to be honest. But again, this is just a fun thing for me, and my real retirement, that is elsewhere. So thank you so much for listening. I am not a financial advisor. Do not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea.